So if you're an executive, Saundra, who's looking for work this month or might be soon, what are the main things you need to begin thinking about and doing?
It took me a long time to get this down to a short list, but I'm just going to give you a real short 5-point list.
Great.
First of all, first thing you need to do is make sure that you know what your next role looks like. This is probably the most important thing to do up front that most people don't do. And what happens when you don't get a clear understanding of where your highest and best use case, your competitive differentiation, and out of that, what you want to do, where they all intersect and where that is that leads to a very frustrating job search, frustrating job search on the basis of interviewing for jobs that aren't right, getting calls from recruiters that aren't right, and not getting responses to things that maybe you think you should get responses for. So getting clear on that. Number 2, I would say, is building network equity. So we all talk about networking like it's some sort of activity that you can, that means that you have to just like go out there and meet a bunch of strangers. Most people sort of do that when they're looking for something, and then they feel guilty that that's the only time they do it. But building network equity is important because we have information at our fingertips and anybody can look up anything. What is needed are people that are resources. And if you can learn how to be a resource to your network and make sure that that network equity that you're building is on point with your brand, you build a solid foundation for which you may never, ever have to look for a job again if you do that right. The third thing that's happening that I've seen happening more than any time in my entire career is that people are investing in a competitive edge. Now, when you're more junior in the pyramid, that tends to look like getting some education, getting an advanced degree, learning some new technologies. At the executive level, it's a little different. What it means is knowing what's now and what's coming. So that doesn't always involve something that you can just go out there and learn. You actually have to gather information so you can then use your expertise to make your own hypothesis. And understanding that is going to make you valuable. The other thing that people are investing in is understanding who their stakeholders are and what their agendas are. And that's usually something that, you know, we see a lot of people, that's a lot where coaching comes in, because they need to understand how the agenda is different if they're trying to engage an executive recruiter versus getting, you know, they just got an introduction to somebody at a PE firm in their industry, and understanding their agendas, if you will. And that also means investing in learning how to do things that you may not have thought you needed to do before, such as communicating your value. And one of the biggest issues of, we'll just say, an Achilles heel is now, if you do apply to something and you end up getting anywhere in that process, you will be asked to record a video. Well, recording a video is a completely different dynamic than you and I just having a conversation on a Zoom video, because there's two-way communication, and your judgment, the people are much harsher in their judgment on one-way communication than they are on two-way communication. So learning how to communicate that and looking the part. It's another thing people are investing in, because looking the part used to just mean you get the right shoes and you get the right suit. Well, no one's probably going to see your suit or your shoes. And I may or may not have shoes on. You don't know that. What investing in looking the part now is the collateral, is their online presence. it's their reputation or their brand. And in video interviews, how polished are they coming off with their verbals and nonverbals? And if you and I were having a normal conversation, I could say 5 or 6 different times and you wouldn't even notice it. If you're a newscaster, let's just say, and you use a few times, or you're recording a one-way conversation video, one-way communication video, that's going to make you seem unpolished. And these are things that people have not thought they needed to invest in before. And Tony, you and I both know our coaches have been spending a lot of time working with people on that. Fourth thing is that in disruption, the best defense is always being ready. And I know that we talk about that a lot. And the fifth thing is make sure that when the offer comes out, if you take that job, it is very important, especially in this time and day and age and level in your career, that it is the right job, that you're not just taking it as some sort of fill in the gap, because the job that you take at the executive level determines or can interrupt or can damage your brand that you've spent all this time to create value around. So, as you know, I could go into rabbit holes on all of that, but those are sort of my top 5.
Well, we might just drill down on a few of those. I want to dial back to something you said quite intentionally: invest in your competitive edge. Now, one could take all 5 things and say, well, that's the edge. Could you, however, distill for our audience, what is the top thing you not just can do, but must do to create that edge? What is the one thing that, if you were to spend your time on one thing first and more deliberately, what would that be?
Well, essentially, this is something I think that all 5 of those things have in common. And I started with, knowing what your next role needs to be, and I ended with don't take the wrong job. So there is a very common through line in that, and that is knowing your value proposition. I talk to executives all the time, and if I were to ask them what their value proposition, they would say they know it. And then when I listen to the answer is them telling me how they get their job done, them telling me the things that they've done. And that's not what your value is. Your value is a brand. A brand is the thing you do for them, not on a day-to-day basis, but what the outcome actually is. And that is something that is probably the most difficult thing about a job search to do on your own. Because I actually had a call with a chief marketing officer of a Fortune 50, actually probably Fortune 10 brand. If I told you the brand, you'd know it, okay? And within the first 10 minutes of our strategy session, she said to me, when I asked her what she wanted help with, she said, I need help on my value proposition. I've been working in my career my whole life. And if there's one thing I know about marketing, and I know a lot, is that I'm on the inside of the bottle and you can't read the label from the inside of the bottle.
That says a lot.